Hi, this is Shauna, and I want to welcome you to Living in This Space. Real talk, because hey, we're all just living in this space we call life, right? It's messy, it's hard, and sometimes it's the most joyous thing we can experience. I want you, my listener, to have a place where the conversation is real and honest. I hope we can spend this time together, validating, sharing, and experiencing all the feels together with whatever topic is on the agenda for the day. Let's dive in. Hi, and welcome back. Well, for those of you who've been listening to this series on the Wheel of Life, this first little bit is going to be a bit of a recap for you. But hang in there, because today we're moving on to another spoke on the wheel. If you're just tuning in, I'm going to be going through a series of episodes talking about a tool that I use in my coaching business. This tool is called the Wheel of Life. Now, some of you may have done a wheel exercise and you're really familiar with what we're going to be talking about. But for those of you who've never heard of a Wheel of Life or you're not familiar, I want you to stop for a moment and picture in your mind the wheel on a bicycle. That wheel will have spokes that support the actual rim that your tire is on. The Wheel of Life looks similar. It has a center and spokes that extend to an outer ring. And each section of those spokes will represent an area of our lives that we are either thriving in or we may need to focus a little bit of attention on. During this 12-episode series, we are going to briefly talk each series episode about an area of this Wheel of Life that I use. So here are the spokes of my Wheel of Life: healthy boundaries, self-belief, positive emotions, belief system, relationships and connections, accomplishments and achievements, your dreams and goals, engagement, growth mindset, self-care, time management, and resilience. Now, the extent to which we are thriving and flourishing in life is really to a large degree based on the choices that we're making every day and how we are doing in each of these areas I just mentioned. And as we go through each area, I want you to take a moment to think about where you are and, how you may be doing along a scale of 0 to 10 in each area. While it's probably not possible to be thriving in all areas at the same time, we certainly have daily opportunities to steadily and intentionally move the needle just a little bit farther toward a 10, thus gaining a much greater sense of well-being, satisfaction, and enjoyment in our lives. If you've missed the previous episodes in this series, I want to encourage you to go back and listen from the beginning, starting with episode 31. But today, we're going to be talking on the next spoke of the wheel, and that spoke is relationships and connections. This is a big one, y'all. Relationships, both personal and in our outer world, play a role in our self-esteem, the level of empathy we have toward other people, our community, and sometimes how we're even seen to other people. Having healthy relationships and connections often signal how we're doing in our own lives. Now, I want to start with our more personal relationships. A healthy relationship involves honesty, trust, respect, open communication, along with an effort to compromise from each person. Partners respect each other's independence, and they can make their own decisions without fear of retribution or retaliation, and they share in decision-making. A healthy relationship between two partners can be best described as interdependent. Being interdependent means you are relying on each other for mutual support, but you are still maintaining your unique identity as an individual. In other words, your relationship is balanced with respect, trust, communication, and commitment. You know that you have your partner's approval and love, but this is so important to understand. Your self-esteem, does not depend on them, and neither does your happiness. Having healthy relationships can bring us so much fulfillment, and they can lead to opportunities and broaden our lives. But staying connected with others is sometimes hard. But when you do, it creates a feeling of belonging and being loved, cared for, and valued. Did you know that studies show healthy social connections and relationships are also important to our mental and physical health? And sometimes they can lead to lowering the rate of anxiety and depression that a person is feeling. Healthy relationships and connections can be just as important to our physical and mental health as exercise and healthy eating. Research has also shown that the psychological and physical health benefits of social contact are so great that they can outweigh the harmful effects of other risk factors and boost our life expectancy. That's pretty powerful, isn't it? How do you think you're doing in this area of your life? Does any of this resonate when you're listening and you're considering the relationships in your life? Have you brought to the forefront of your thoughts right now some healthy relationships that you have? Or maybe you've got some unhealthy relationships that you need to take a look at. You know, many years ago, and I'm talking many years ago, I was a very social person. I had a friend group. We got together often for parties, events, and gatherings. But somewhere along the path, my life seemed to take a change. After 9 big moves, with 4 of them being cross-country, focusing on raising a family, and not putting in the effort to maintain relationships outside of my small family circle, I became more isolated and often feeling left out and alone. And if I'm being very transparent with you, I've not done my best to foster new relationships in the latest place that we're living in. Working on this episode has really opened my eyes to how isolated I've allowed myself to become with in-person friendships. And, that sometimes you have to take a step back and evaluate where you are and maybe stop and think, do you want to move forward in a new direction? If you're not happy with where you're sitting in that isolated place, it might be time to start fostering some new friendships or, social relationships. Now, before social media, computers, and cell phones, we didn't have instant access to the world, our friends, and our social circles. So fostering healthy relationships usually involved effort, setting dates to get together, intentional building and maintaining relationships and connections. I think compassion and empathy were much easier to express because we had more personal contact with each other. We were actually looking into the eyes of our friends and even our coworkers. We were interacting on a physical and social levels that, sadly now, can be done via social media, Zooms, and easy access with texting and cell phone calls. You can almost reach anybody on a cell phone now. Before, you had to be at home to take a phone call. And we can't talk about healthy relationships without mentioning what an unhealthy relationship might look like. So let's look at that for a minute. Unhealthy relationships are often built on power and control. You may not even recognize this behavior in the beginning of a relationship. The other person is usually on their best behavior. Unhealthy looks like insults, jealous accusations, yelling, put-downs, shoving, pushing, or other abusive behaviors. Each of these, sweet sisters, are unhealthy and disrespectful. It's gaslighting, manipulation, love bombing, along with so many other red flags. Please understand, this kind of unhealthy can be found in all relationships, both personal, friendships, family, and our work environment. But sadly, I want you to hear this, the people closest to us can slip into the unhealthy aspect of a relationship very quickly. And this is because of their level of comfort expressing negative emotions with us. My sweet listeners, I want you to really hear me right now. If you are in a relationship that feels unhealthy, please seek out a good therapist and talk about your feelings and concerns. And if you are in a relationship that has a violent verbal or physical side, please get help. At no time is this kind of abuse, or any abuse for that matter, acceptable. I really think we could spend a whole episode on what abuse looks and feels like. There are so many behaviors that we tolerate in relationships that we don't even recognize as unhealthy, and we don't recognize them as abusive. And because I feel so strongly about women being safe and supported in a healthy relationship, I want to touch on something that I found in newyork.gov. It just popped up in a website when I was doing a little research on what unhealthy relationships are. And this website is listing the foundations of a healthy relationship between two partners. Now, I've added some of my thoughts to the first two components, but for the most part, this is from the newyork.gov website. These are components that are necessary for a healthy relationship between two partners. Boundaries. You and your partner are able to find ways to meet each other's needs in ways that you both are comfortable with. This is a mutual respect for privacy and personal space. You don't have to be together 24/7, unless, of course, you want that. And remember, friendships add an important layer to our lives, so having and maintaining friendships can be an important part of a personal relationship. Next is communication. You and your partner can share your feelings, even when you don't agree with each other, and you're sharing them in a way that makes the other person feel safe and heard, but not judged. Sweet listeners, you should not be afraid to express your feelings or emotions to someone that's that close to you in your life. That should be a safe space. The next is trust. Building trust can take time, and it allows couples to be vulnerable with each other, knowing that they can rely on each other and have each other as a safe place that they can trust with their feelings and their thoughts and just life things, actually. And then the next is consent. I want you to really listen to this one. Most commonly used is the word consent when you're sexually active. Giving consent means that you are okay with what's happening, and that no one is forcing you or guilting you into doing anything that you don't want to do. Ladies, consent can be given and taken back at any time. And giving consent once does not mean you automatically give consent in the future. I really, really want you to think about this one because I think this word consent gets completely lost in a personal relationship often. So if you're struggling here, please seek help from someone that can guide you and counsel you. Now, as we wrap up this episode, I want to remind you, if you have an unhealthy relationship with someone that you are in a personal relationship with, please seek out that personal licensed therapist to help you. Relationships are often so tricky to navigate, and not every relationship will be sunshine and roses all the time. Of course, there's going to be ups and downs. But the important thing is that you can recognize when something is very wrong and either seek help or walk away if you need to. So let's recap. Healthy relationships and connections are vital for our emotional well-being, our physical well-being, and just the flavor of life. I mean, if you have healthy relationships and connections, your life feels so much more fulfilled and so much more color is added to your life. But if you're in unhealthy relationships, please reevaluate, do some diving and digging into it, and get some help if you feel like you need to. Sweet listeners, until the next time we're together, I hope that you are living a life fulfilled with healthy relationships and connections, and every day is just an adventure for you. Hey, thanks for listening. Don't forget to hit follow wherever you get your podcast. And until next time, I hope you live in your space well, my friends.